In this video, I want to go over how you can take measured point data such as this to eventually get your deviation data from a set line of sorts to have it displayed in an Excel file such as this where you can easily see your deviation from a specific point. In this example, I have a wall here that's measured, this bottom wall here, for instance, that's on a diagonal, and the point MP1, which is represented towards the bottom of the wall, is one of the main points on the wall that we're basing our measurements off of, and that is connected to the top of the wall at MP2. So MP2 to MP1 is the wall that I want to check to see these other measured points that were based off the wall, how far away they are from that wall. This is something that's common if you're measuring a facade and you're checking, for instance, anchor points, window openings, etc., and you want to see how plumb or unplumbed they are from a specific location. So to help me see my gospel line that I want to base everything off of a little bit better, I'm going to quickly just change this color to be red. And I did that simply by adding a wall layer, making it red, and then moving a CAD entity to that layer. And you can now see that that wall line is red. So again, this wall line, that red line, is my gospel wall that I want to check to see all these measured points that are near it to see whether or not they're going to fall on that wall. If I go to my 3D view, you'll notice that this is the walls that I measured, and I want to base everything based off this bottom two measurements that I made. In order to do this, I need to make sure that this gospel wall is straight up and down, or if preferable, straight left and right. And let me explain that by using paint. If I've a wall that I measured diagonally, a point here and a point here, if this coordinate is, let's say, it's x equals 0, y equals 10, and this point over here is x equals 10, y equals 0, then all the points that are scattered along this line, wherever they might be, are going to be difficult to subtract to see exactly where on the line they fall if you base it off their coordinates. For instance, this coordinate right here might be coordinate x equals 5, y equals 5. But exactly how far away is that from the line itself? Sure, I know it's 5 units away from 0 and 5 units below 10. However, how far away is that point from the line? If instead the line was oriented straight up and down, where this is x equals 0, y equals 10, and this down here is y equals 0 and x equals 0, and you have your points scattered across the line, let's say that this coordinate is x equals 3, y equals 5, I know that this 3 means that it's 3 units away from the line because it's a straight up and down line. That's why I want to have the line oriented straight up and down or straight left and right, and then use the coordinates to determine how far away these points are away from the line. It'll make it a lot easier, and that's how I'm going to set up my project. So to do that, I'm first going to export all of this point data to get me started, and I'll explain why in a moment. But to export your point data, I'm going to press Export, Points, and I'll make sure I export even my measured points, so all of my points are going to be measured in units of comma and feet and northern eastern height. Just so I remember the units, I'm going to press Export. Simply save the file wherever you want on your computer and say Save. Now the reason I did that is because when you are in Profis Layout Office, which is this software here, I need to somehow make all of these points align to a straight up and down line. So if I make a straight up and down line somewhere, it doesn't matter where. If I go to sketching, I'll draw a line based off this point here. I'll just draw it 25 feet up in the air, and I'll say continue. So there I have a line. There's my gospel line. If I want to align all of these points down here to this line, I can try to do so. But if you notice, if I go to Kogo, transform, which is the alignment function, it's going to warn me that transformation is not allowed because the job contains station points, meaning this job has already done layout. Somebody already was in the field with this job doing some sort of layout or measuring, and because of that, the project is preventing me from ruining any of the layout that's been completed on a stationing job. So naturally what you would do is you just delete the stationing information, which is what I'm doing now, and once you do so, you'll notice that after you delete all the stationing information, all of the measured points that were associated with that station are gone as well. That's how Profis Layout Office works. If you have a measured point that you've measured based off of stationing in the field, all the data associated with that stationing, if you delete it, will also be removed. So what I did is I exported all those points so that I can re-import that data as a layout point or a non-measured point. So the fact that all those points are gone doesn't concern me. I'll just go ahead and delete all these points and re-import them now. Now that all the points are gone, I'm now going to go to Data Manager, Import, and I'm going to import all those points that I exported as layout points this time, so that way I can move them around as I please. Once you find your file, just say Open. Make sure that the information at the top is the exact same as how you exported them, which mine is. I'm going to import all the points and say Create. If this messages pop up, it just simply means that one of your points either has the same coordinate as each other or the same name as each other. If you need to edit your point file before doing this, do so, but I know that for the points that it's showing me, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to say in the event of further conflicts applying, please select the first point, and that's fine with me. But you'll notice that all the points come in. Now, from here, all I need to do is take these points and align them to this line here. I don't need this CP3 point, it can just go away. I'm simply doing this to make sure that these points are now aligned straight up and down. I'm going to go to Kogo. I'm going to go to Transform. And over here, I'm going to simply indicate that I'm going to be transforming objects. I'm not going to do it with scaling because I want to keep the points at the same scale. All I care is that they're on the straight line. So I'm going to take off scaling. At the bottom left, it says select the entities to be transformed. So I'll just select the whole project, all those entities. Once you select all your points, at the bottom left, it says press the Enter key to end the reference section, which I'll do now. And now it's telling me at the bottom left to mark the points, basically to drag the points and take them where they belong. So I know that I want to align MP2 to the top of the line I created up there. So I'm going to zoom in to find MP2, which is now a layout point. And I'll go ahead and align that with the top of the line up at the top. So I'm going to click it right up to the top there. So MP1 is going to go to where you see the LP1 point. And I'm going to take my MP1, which is the other part of my gospel line, and I'm going to be dragging MP1 to the bottom of that line to make MP1 and MP2 be on the same easting coordinate. So over here you can see it's taking these origin points and putting them to the new location. Once that's completed, I'll say transform. Now, because I didn't have scaling checked, what you'll notice is that it did move the points. The points that I used to transform, which are these new points LP2 and LP1, you can tell that they are obviously longer than the distance of MP1 and MP2. And you can see that MP1 and MP2 are still the same distance apart. MP2 is located here, dead on the line, and MP1, down here at the bottom, is also located dead on the line, which means if I click on this point and look at its properties, MP1 has a property value of easting of 3281.50, which should be the same as MP2. Let's check, 328150. So now all these other points, if they are not on 3281.50 feet, there's going to be deviation from this line. That's why I had to transform it. So to make this a little bit easier, I don't need any of the information from these points over here on the right. I'm going to simply delete all those so that when I export these points to put them into my Excel file, it's an easy process. Let me go ahead and delete these points now. I'm simply going to highlight them and press delete and do the same for the rest. The only points I want to work with are these right here. So now that they are all on the same easting coordinate as I planned, I will now go to export. I will export the points, and here's all my points listed in here. And I don't need a check measure point this time because I remember I imported them as layout points, and I'm exporting them as units of feet with a comma separator in NEH format, which is fine for me. So I'm going to export this, and again I'm going to save it to wherever I want on my computer. I'll save this as realigned south points. Now if I open up my template, all this information in here I no longer need. I'm going to be importing new information. This is just simply an Excel file that I have set formulas in here that will give me the differential of these points in units of inches. So what I went ahead and did is opened up my realigned south points CSV file in Excel, and I'm going to search for MP1, which is right here, 3281.5, which should be the same value as MP2. So I know that this MP1 value point here in the Excel file, this 3281.5, I'll copy that. I know that that value is what I need to use in my easting column as my designed gospel easting. So in this template I'll just go ahead and put my designed east is 3281.5, which is located there. Now this point I'm going to drag down as the same value of the easting for all the points I'm going to import on the right side. So this is the design point that I want to match. And over here for the staked easting, which is the measured points I made, I'm going to simply import the actual values from those measured points. So if I come back to my file, here's all the easting values of all my measured points. So I'll go ahead and select all of these measured points, highlight that column, copy it, and paste it into this column based off the values. Okay, so they're all in there, and let me now drag this down further to make sure it hits all the values. Now that the names are in there, let's go over here and look. All these values here are basically dead on the money within 0.01 feet of each other, or 0 inches. And you can see down here that all of them are pretty close. And we even have some that are 5/16 a quarter inch off here. So what I'm seeing here is that the maximum I'm seeing so far, just by a quick glance, is maybe a 1/2 inch. Positive means it's to the right of the line. Negative means it's to the left of the line. What I've seen some people do, and I've done this before myself, is I sometimes put a conditional format on this to automatically highlight any values that are higher than a certain number. So in this case, I have this column highlighted, and I want to see anything that is higher than 1/4 of an inch, because 1/4 of an inch might be my tolerance. So I'll go to conditional formatting, I'll make a new rule, I'll click on format only cells that contain a value that is greater than or equal to 0.25. And I'll format that to be a fill of red. I'll say OK. Now, anything that's higher than 1/4 of an inch is going to be highlighted for my quick view. So that is one way that you can do a deviation report to determine your offsets of different measured points based off a specific wall line. If for whatever reason you want to use the designed easting of a different point, so for instance, if I go back to my line here, and let's say I want to base everything off of MP72, and that's the easting I want to use, I can simply copy that point, paste that into here instead, and drag that down. And now everything's going to be based off of that easting instead. Simply an Excel trick. I'll go ahead and put it back to what I had before, and that's what these values represent.